They have a combined 12 years in the National Football League. They combined for 65 career sacks, 232 tackles, 1 Pro Bowl selection, and 1 Employee of the Month award.
That's just a straight shooter with upper management written all over him.
It's Train and Grose on the All AZ Podcast Network.
Working conditions around here. Damn, have fun doing it. Welcome in episode 93 of Train and Grose. B-Train, Bertrand Berry, Mike Grose, and Sean Crespin coming to you from a frigid Phoenix, Arizona.
I mean, it's a little chilly. I mean, you know, it's not quite what we're used to here in the Valley, but
it's nice.
Yeah.
If you could see the pictures, like it's like the changing of the seasons. We come in here in July.
We're half naked in here.
We're melting in our seats, especially me because the host B-Train here at Train Station Studios in downtown Phoenix. You got the air conditioner going.
Yeah.
And suddenly somebody gets all big. Somebody's boxing me out, blocking the air.
What are you talking about?
Nothing.
A little swamp ass, you know what I mean, going on.
Stick to the chair.
A little sticky.
B-Train's got to get the Lysol wipes afterwards. Not tonight.
Not tonight. No, we're good.
And we always set the stage. We are recording the night after the Dallas Cowboys travel to Florida and take care of business against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they advance. We'll get to all that in just a minute. I was going to do a poll on our Twitter handle at Train and Grose, and who do you get more annoyed with at the end of each football season trying to make up their mind what they're going to do? Aaron Rodgers or Jim Harbaugh?
Wow.
Who annoys you more at the end of each football season? Aaron Rodgers today said, it's going to take some time for me to figure it out, decide what I want to do.
I think I got to go Jim Harbaugh only because at least Aaron Rodgers has won a Super Bowl.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, all of the am I in or am I out? You know, you got to at least give him a championship to hold on to if you're going to walk out.
I'm going to go the other way because 90% of the Jim Harbaugh "are you in or out" is media driven. He hasn't said a thing himself at all. The only things he's said publicly are, "I look forward to being back at Michigan next year." That's it. That's all he said. The rest of it's all media driven, social media, speculation. Yeah. Whereas Aaron Rodgers goes up and, "This sure felt like it was the last one." And I mean, it's all him. He's bringing it on himself. Jim Harbaugh, all that speculation is all talking heads like us.
I'm going to travel to New Mexico, smoke some peyote, and decide what my ancestors want me to do.
Right.
Yeah, I get it. Here's my problem with Jim Harbaugh. Look, the man has the right to earn a living wherever he wants.
Right.
And I don't necessarily agree with all of what Sean just said because it came out that Jim Harbaugh initiated the call to the Carolina Panthers.
Right.
Right. So it's not like he's just sitting back waiting for this to happen.
Yep.
But look, if he wants to go back to the NFL, he's earned the right. I mean, he's brought Michigan all the way back from some dismal years under Brady Hoke and others.
Yep.
College football playoffs back-to-back, Ohio State beatdowns back-to-back. But here's the thing. Like, if you play for Michigan, you're one of his players or one of his assistant coaches.
Right.
What does he expect? Chain of command. Understand who's in charge. Buck stops with the head coach, right?
You also expect a little bit of loyalty, too.
A little bit of loyalty, absolutely. The university president at the University of Michigan. I love this tweet. "I just got off the phone with Coach Jim Harbaugh, and Jim shared with me the great news that he's going to remain the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines. This is fantastic news." This is the kicker right here. "This is fantastic news that I have communicated to our athletic director, Ward Manuel."
Wow.
Oh, by the way, athletic director who's in charge of the athletic department, I just got off the phone with your head football coach.
Yeah.
And he's going to be staying, so go ahead and make necessary arrangements.
It does seem kind of weird that he would go to the president of the school before he would go to the athletic director. It would just seem as if that order of sequence would be the other way around. You go to the athletic director, let the athletic director go to the president, and then he makes that announcement over Twitter. But, hey, Jim has always kind of marched to the beat of his own drum. He's always been a different dude. And this just falls right in step with what he's been his whole career.
Well, and, he has a track record of wearing out his welcome. You look at his record at the 49ers, and it was amazing.
Stanford as well.
Yeah. And he had to go. He had to move on.
Yeah.
And, each time you go from Stanford to the NFL, okay. You go from the NFL back to your alma mater, I understand it. But sooner or later,
you're running out of places.
You're running out of places.
Musical chairs, and there's only so many chairs.
And despite what the naysayers and the haters want to say, this is not about the product on the football field, because I don't think you can argue what he's done since he's got there. A little bit of a rough start, but he's put this in place. The recruiting, I mean, he's.
So then what's the problem?
Are you in or are you out?
And do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
Like if I'm one of his players, I got a problem with Jim Harbaugh. Don't worry about it, Coach. I'm going to go talk to the athletic director. We'll get this all squared away. No, you take care of your business in the football office.
Yeah.
You keep your business
Like
in the athletic department.
Yeah, face to
and
face.
you made a good point. Like he's probably still feeling a certain kind of way about getting his money taken away. But don't you go to the man who took your money away?
Well, you make him squirm a little bit.
Yeah.
And you make him wait a little bit.
Absolutely.
And I think he's playing the media game where he's wanting to publicly shame these guys and publicly let them know who's really running it, because the court of public opinion is going to favor Jim Harbaugh.
Absolutely.
Because one, they know who he is. They don't always know who the university president is or who the athletic director is. So he's the face of the program, so he's going to enjoy every moment of this. Back-to-back Big Ten championships, back-to-back trips to the playoffs. He feels like he's done his job, and now he wants to be compensated.
Absolutely. And I don't begrudge the man on any of that.
But it's the way you go about it, to your point.
It's just I got off the phone with Jim Harbaugh, and I'll call the athletic director and let him know it's all taken care of.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Sounds shady. Sounds out of order.
Somebody put that out there that said something to the effect of, this tweet is essentially telling the athletic director, get your resume cleaned up because you're not calling the shots here anymore. Time to move on. So,
right.
But nonetheless, Jim Harbaugh will be back. And I guess we just wait and see what Aaron Rodgers is going to do.
Jeez. 19th season. What is it with these quarterbacks trying to hold on to the very last ounce of athletic ability that they have left? With Aaron Rodgers, I don't know. First of all, he's got 60 million reasons why he's going to come back, and I completely understand that. And a birdie once told me, if you know how much money you got in the bank, you don't have enough. Yep. So I think for him, he knows how much he has, and 60 million will go a long way towards making sure you don't know how much you have. Right. And you'd be a damn fool to give that up.
Can I ask who gave that unbelievably awesome advice there? Because that's.
I had it was rookie year. I had a teammate. He was, I forget who it was specifically, but I had some doozies on my squad. And because
I love that. There's so much truth to that. If you know how much is in your account, you don't got enough. I can tell you the penny right now.
Yeah, down to the penny.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to have some great teammates, but the point of it is when you start talking about money, and with Aaron Rodgers, I think he's still smarting, kind of like Jim Harbaugh, over the Jordan Love pick. Yeah. I think for him, he's gonna needle the Packers until he decides to call it a day, and he's not gonna let them off the hook for it, because he forgets so quickly that once upon a time he was the draft pick for Brett Favre. Yeah. And they didn't console with Brett Favre. They didn't tell him what they were gonna do, and they made the pick. And Brett Favre kept them twisting in the wind for a few years. Am I gonna stay? Am I gonna retire? And it looks as if Aaron Rodgers is doing the exact same thing.
Meanwhile, Tom Brady.
Is
that the last we see Tom Brady?
I hope so.
Man,
I really hope so.
The look that he had walking off the field last
the kiss
night.
to his parents and the kiss in the mouth to the
dad.
What is it with the kissing men in the mouth? I mean, first, it was, Patriots owner, they're kissing on the lips. And then now, dad, I understand more than Robert Kraft, but my gosh, it makes me feel a little queasy to see grown men kissing on the lips, man.
Yeah, that I didn't think we were going there. I'm with you. Didn't think we were going there. That notwithstanding, the walk off the field even before he got to his dad with the cameras following him. Yeah. You could just tell this was not the way he wanted this to end. And I'm with you. I hope that was the end, and we'll think about all the other great things that he did, because Father Time, what's it?
It's undefeated.
Yeah,
Father Time
waits for no
undefeated.
man. And I know there's been speculation. Does he go to the Raiders? Does he come back to Tampa?
Mike,
go to Fox. Go to Fox.
He's got $375 million waiting on him.
Yeah.
They've already offered him the contract. All you've got to do is sign it, and it's yours. Why are you waiting? Tom Brady played this entire season like a guy that didn't want to go to work today. Mm-hmm. He didn't want to get hit, Mike. You saw him throw his first red zone interception since he's been in Tampa.
Yep.
And the reason that he threw that interception was because he didn't want to take the hit from the oncoming pass rusher. And you can't play that way, Mike, not at that position, because it is an inherent job that you're going to get hit. They're going to hit you each and every time that you can. As a former pass rusher, Mike, it was my duty to go and hit that boot. No, I'm just saying. It was my duty to go and hit the quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had to go and take him out every single time. He had to know that I was there, and it became a mental thing. And I think for the first time in his entire 23-year career, we saw him looking at the pass rush.
You're a Raiders fan. Is this
You don't say.
Is this an option that that like gets you excited?
No, not in the slightest bit. But there's a lot to that, right? I mean,
I know there's a lot going on.
There's so much there, but absolutely not. It depends on where you're at as a franchise. I think it's hard to tell Devontae Adams, Max Crosby, Chandler Jones, the veterans in that locker room, Josh Jacobs, to try to get him to come back. It's a hard sell, I think, to those guys that, hey, we're going to go with a rookie right now. Yeah. They're in kind of somewhat win-now mode, and you're chasing the Chiefs. So it's a hard sell to go the rookie route, and this isn't a great rookie class. But I don't know if Tom Brady's the guy. I mean, at worst, he knows Josh McDaniel's system, so that's a bonus. And with that, at worst, I think you're a 7-8 win team, and you're picking middle of the pack, and you're missing out on those quarterbacks anyway. So no, I don't see Tom Brady being the guy. I don't know if that's the decision.
So I take how the season ended for Derek Carr and the Raiders. Is Tom Brady a substantial upgrade over Derek Carr?
Right now, no.
No, he's not.
So why'd you get rid of Derek Carr in the first place?
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Doesn't make any sense to me. But hey,
so we'll see. Tom Brady, he needs to go. See on Fox.
It's time.
See on Fox.
It's time, bro.
Playoff weekend bookend by a couple of lopsided games. 41-23, the 49ers beat the Seahawks.
I was at that game.
Somebody was at that game?
Yeah.
And then the game we saw last night, 31-14, shouldn't have been that close. Should have been 35-14.
Wow. Yeah.
Should have been.
Yeah. I mean, in between, there were some great
really
storylines.
good games in between. And I want to start with the Jaguars because,
absolutely,
as you guys know, somebody in this room was on the Jaguars early this year. Made some money off the Jaguars this year. And they mentioned it on the broadcast a couple of times. And why that was even nicer to see that, the Urban Meyer experiment.
Oh, gosh.
Like, just put a nail in that once and for all. And the other thing is, Brandon Staley, you are who we thought you are.
Yeah.
Or were, or whatever, how that saying goes.
Yeah, you are who we thought you were. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Denny Green.
Yeah.
31-30, though, the Jaguars come from behind and beat the Los Angeles Chargers.
It is inconceivable to think that a team in 2023 can give up a 27-0 lead.
Yeah.
I saw a 35-3 advantage with my Houston Oilers is right over your shoulder, Mike. Give it up to the Buffalo Bills once upon a time. I think it was 93 or 92, whichever year it was. It was horrific. But to think that in today's NFL that you can literally give that game away when you're up 27.5, basically, it speaks to so many things, but ultimately it always comes back to coaching. The difference in the Jacksonville Jaguars in what they were last year with Urban Meyer and what they are now with Doug Peterson is they are a well-coached team. They're a talented team, but they have a definite game plan. And you saw a coach put his arms around a quarterback who was struggling in the first half. Trevor Lawrence, he looked as if he was about to make a career turn down the wrong path with that 4 interception, and they were getting blown out. But somehow, some way, his coach was able to put his arm around him, tell him, hey, look, we believe in you still. And he was able to still come out there and throw 4 touchdowns, and bring that team all the way back. I can't say enough about the 2-point conversion. I cannot say how impressive that is to have that type of wherewithal in that moment, Mike, to go for 2, knowing that you may only get 1 possession again, and you're going to play to win. Like, you're letting them know, you're showing your hand, like, we're all in right now. Like, we're not going to let this thing go to overtime. We've already used all of our get-out-of-jail-free cards. we're going to play this thing to win, and it actually worked.
And it worked, and they had the Chargers on their heels, and they literally, I guess figuratively, punched them in the mouth and staggered them with that. I'm going to make and hopefully this isn't in pump the brakes. Brandon Staley is Cliff Kingsbury with a much better roster.
Wow. That's a hell of a statement, Mike. I can't argue with you, though. I mean, really can't argue with you.
You look at the way they ended their season last year. They should have been a playoff team a year ago, but they weren't because of a singular decision that should have cost him his job.
Should have cost him his job.
And then, this collapse this year. I mean,
But you know why he didn't lose his job, Mike? I think, one, finances play a big part in some organizations.
Oh, and that franchise is a mess.
It's a mess, but they literally can't afford, and I hate to say that because you're talking about a team that's, raking in, hundreds of millions of dollars. They literally can't afford to fire the entire coaching staff. They made some changes. They fired the offensive coordinator. They fired I believe the quarterback coach or whoever it was. And they kept the head coach in place. To me, that says you can't afford to let him go and pay him to do nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously we saw here with the Arizona Cardinals, things had gotten so bad, they were like, you know what, we don't care. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
And he immediately took a one-way trip to Thailand or wherever it was that he went. I mean, my gosh.
Lucky him.
Yeah. It's crazy stuff. I mean, the playoffs, I just – the one surprise to me was Minnesota Giants because I thought the Minnesota Vikings had enough to get past the Giants. With all of the dysfunction that we saw, with the Giants, and then you bring in Daboll and what he's able to do, I think there's no question he's coach of the year. I don't think there's any doubt. He is coach of the year with Doug Peterson a very close second.
Man, I look at this. I mean, when I did my picks, I said Vikings are going to win, but that game didn't shock me. And you go back and you look at this Vikings team and you talk about what trends did you see throughout the course of the year. They gave up the third most amount of points in the National Football League. The point differential was horrible. Yeah, the point differential was horrible. The total points allowed,
12
points
wins
per game, whatever you want to call it, all terrible. They win 13 games. But you look at it and, you can go up and down this roster, up and down the schedule, and against not very good teams where down the stretch you barely beat the Colts. That game where the Colts got up big on them in their building, and you come back and you win it in overtime. All up and down the schedule, you can see where woulda, coulda, shoulda. Yeah. This could be closer to a 500 team.
But the thing about that schedule too, Mike, is when you go to the losses, they lost to good teams. And it wasn't close. Like the games that they lost, they were handled.
3 losses. To the Eagles, 24-7.
Yeah.
To the Cowboys, 40-3.
At home.
At home. And then their last loss was on the road by a wide margin to a team that didn't make the playoffs in the Green Bay Packers, 41-17.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 losses.
I mean, again, Mike, I look at this team and it just – there's such a head-scratcher. And then I look at Kirk Cousins. This is – you talk about they were who we thought they were. He is who we thought he was as far as a guy that doesn't show up when it matters most. When the lights are the brightest, he shrinks under the pressure. Mike, how do you throw a 4-yard pass when it's 4th and 8 for the game to a tight end that's covered?
Our friend Vince Marotta, give credit where credit's due. You need 11, I'll get you 4.
But Mike,
said about Kirk Cousins this morning.
How do you not throw it to Justin Jefferson? You've thrown it to basically a team meeting when he's been on the field.
And he brought it down.
And caught it.
Yep.
That catch
one-handed.
That catch against Buffalo, that's one of the best catches I've ever seen. And you consistently threw to this man, no matter how covered he was or you thought he wasn't. You've got to give your stud a chance to make a play for the season, Mike. You don't go 4 yards to T.J. Hockenson and say, hey, well, at least I got the completion. This has been the knock on Kirk Cousins and why he has never really been taken seriously as a top quarterback in the NFL.
You get him for another year in Minnesota.
And I mean, nobody has milked and finessed the system better than Kirk Cousins. As far as salary, the back-to-back franchise tags, and then getting the money from Minnesota.
Yeah, you talk about the money waiting for Tom Brady. Career earnings for Kirk Cousins, if he plays out the entire contract next year, $232 million.
You like that.
Dollars.
You like that.
232.
You like that.
Man. They're coming for you, Kirk. All right, real quickly, as we look over the rest of the playoffs, look, Sean mentioned it before we came on, talking about the Bills. And I don't – of the games that were the favorite one, but were a heck of a lot closer than I think anybody expected, I think that game, to me, was the big surprise in that regard.
It did raise some eyebrows. To think about the Bills, everything that they've been through in recent history with DeMar Hamlin and that whole situation, and the fact that they were playing a third-string quarterback, a guy that, out of Kansas State hadn't really done a whole lot, Skylar Thompson, I think it is.
You're right.
And, for him to be in that game with a chance, they really should have been in a position to win that game. Like, they had every chance in the world. Their clock management at the end was horrific. And I have to put that at McDaniel's feet, the head coach of the Dolphins, because you cannot mismanage the clock that bad at this stage in the season. It's not like this is week 5 or week 6. I know you're a first-year coach, but you've had 18 games to figure this out at this point.
Look, I look at this and I'm like, if you would have just covered up the final score and I showed you the box score, Skylar Thompson, as you mentioned, quarterback for the Bills, threw for 220 yards but had a couple interceptions, quarterback rating under 40. They rushed for 42 yards, and they lose the game 34-31. It's just kind of inexplicable how that all happens.
Yeah.
I mean – and Sean,
that's why you play the game.
Credit where credit's due. Sean mentioned it. On the other side of the coin, Josh Allen taking chances, 2 interceptions.
I think the Miami Dolphins deserve better. They deserve better than how the season ended. You lose your quarterback to concussions, and they at one point they looked like one of the best teams in all the NFL. Mike,
first half. Yeah,
they were one of the scariest teams. When you talk about Jalen Waddle, you think about Tyreek Hill. They were a nightmare for any secondary to have to deal with. And when you have the main cog go out the way that he did and how they mismanaged that with a Sunday followed by a Thursday night game where you put your quarterback in harm's way, it just seemed unfortunate. And then, you add in the Brian Flores situation before that. I mean, what a turn of events in really, 14 months for the Miami Dolphins?
What do you do with Tua?
I don't think he can be your franchise quarterback.
I don't think so either. And I think it's
tough.
It's a tough decision to make, and most of it's to no fault to him, right? It's just when you see a guy, and I want to use the right word here because fragile is not the word.
No.
But when you see a guy have the consistent injuries especially with the head,
the body fails you. Sometimes.
What are you going to do if you're a franchise? I don't know if you can hit your wagon there. I really don't.
You can't. And I think in a twisted way, somewhere Jalen Hurts is looking like, hey, out of all 3 Alabama quarterbacks who was on the roster at the same time, I'm the one that's smelling the best.
Yeah.
Think about Mac Jones, you think about Tua. I transferred, and here I am still standing.
I agree with you, though, Sean. You can't put that on Tua either.
No.
It's
concussions.
You feel horrible
concussion.
For him.
Yeah, you feel bad for him, but you look at it. You got to think about, you talk about player safety.
Life
you have
after
it
football.
in the moment, right?
Life
You have that
football.
in the moment decision, but then you have the big picture, life after football. I think hopefully his family and he are having that conversation. And I don't know if a franchise can do it, if a team can do it.
And that's the thing. It's twofold, right? I mean, you got to think about him as the person, right? It's too many times we forget about that. That's a person.
Yep.
You got to think about him first. And then you still is a business. You got to look at it from both sides. And if you're the Dolphins, I just don't know how you continue going in the direction you are. I think when you have a roster that's ready to win right now, can you roll it back next year thinking, man, gotta hope we can have our guy for 16 games,
So I'm going to throw this out just to be a jackass. There's a quarterback a little north in Florida that may be looking for a job. Would he be a fit in Miami?
Jackass.
I mean, I'm just saying. If you start talking about possible suitors, they can't go with the quarterback that they have, and you know that he needs a ready-made winner. No. That organization looks like a ready-made winner. And once upon a time, they did recruit him.
Yeah.
Because, Stephen Ross is a University of Michigan alum who happens to be the same college that certain quarterback went to back in the day. I'm just saying.
Where do you go to retire? South Florida. Yeah.
I mean, you start connecting the dots. I mean, I'm just saying.
I've heard crazier things. It makes more sense than the Raiders.
Way more sense. They're ready to win now.
Yeah.
They're closer to it than the Raiders are.
And they've got a decent offensive line. He's got weapons to throw to.
All over the place.
A lot. Yeah, that makes sense.
Defense is pretty good. I mean, I'm just saying.
Breaking news. Bertrand Berry reporting.
I mean, I'm just saying. You don't even have to leave the state. You still get the same tax breaks. You know what I'm saying?
All right, well, we'll keep an eye on that. Hey, if it happens, we'll mark this January 17th.
Hey,
you said it. All right, looking ahead next weekend on the NFC, old is new again. San Francisco hosts the Cowboys.
Wow.
How nice is that? And then, of course, the NFC East matchup, the Giants and the Eagles. And then you flip it over on the AFC side, the Jaguars, for that nice win against the Chargers. They get to travel to Arrowhead to play a well-rested Kansas City Chiefs team. And then
probable MVP and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Yeah. And then the Bengals and the Bills rematch there.
You know, the thing that I love about that rematch is that it's not in Cincinnati, because I think that would have just been too much for both teams. I just think to have that type of matchup, the way that the thing happened, the way that it all went down, you couldn't have that game in Cincinnati again. I just think that would have been too much trauma for both teams. I think it was good for both that they had a change of scenery. There's going to be plenty of emotion in that game anyway, because it's a divisional round game. You're playing for opportunity to go to a conference championship game, and there's going to be high intensity. Like,
great.
They had their moment where they were kumbaya and everybody was all together praying for Damar Hamlin. But now that's aside. We know Damar is healthy and he's on the road to recovery. Thank God.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now we can get back to the business of football and competition. And I think the stakes couldn't be higher, and I think the emotions couldn't be higher heading into that game.
We'll step aside here. On the other side, we'll keep it local. I want to be an Arizona sports fan, do you? We'll talk about the Cardinals and the Suns coming up next on Train and Gross.
Train and Gross.
Behind the scenes is more fun sometimes than the podcast.
How many pretzels you gonna eat over there, Grose?
Wow.
Why don't you mind your business, Sean Cresswell?
Wow.
I got some too.
I had a hard day at the office today. B-Train nice enough to put out refreshments for us here at train stations.
We do what we can.
I don't know. Pick your poison. Where do we start? I guess the Arizona Cardinals.
They make some headlines recently?
A few headlines. Since the last time we were here, did we know they'd fired the coach last? No. I'm trying to remember when we recorded. So the coach has been fired. Not
General manager has stepped down.
General manager stepped down.
They've already hired a new general manager.
They have. Their star wide receiver. Well, let's do the takeaways first.
Okay.
Their star wide receiver says, well, in this one I don't know. I'm gonna take a page out of Sean's book, and when he was trying to defend Jim Harbaugh.
Okay.
Is this a matter of is this a media driven story, or does D-Hop really want out of town? But that's out there. And
who's going to throw him the ball the first half of the season? Because Kyler isn't coming back until at least Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and he right now he doesn't even know what type of an offense this is going to be running here. You know what I mean? He has no idea offensively beyond just the quarterback. What the hell system are we going to run? What is it going to look like?
It would be easier if Kyler was the quarterback.
Much
but
easier.
You don't even have that as a comfort to know who's going to be throwing you the ball. So if I'm D-Hop, I mean, I'm in the prime of my career. Why would I want to stay with a team that's going nowhere fast?
If you're D-Hop, you're on the 30s part of your career. So I don't know if you're still in your prime or not.
I think in the right.
I mean,
position.
no, he's still elite, but he doesn't have the luxury. And I don't know if you're the Cardinals. If you can turn him into some draft capital, it might be a win-win situation. The problem is that D-Hop negotiated himself. Does he get a nickname?
Yeah.
Somebody else in town doesn't get a nickname.
Yeah, no, he doesn't get one.
Negotiated himself with Steve Keim a beautiful contract, which is going to cost if the Cardinals move him, will cost him $22.5 million of dead money, as well as he gets to pick because they gave him a full no trade clause in his contract. So when we roll in and say, "Hey, we're trading you over to the Chicago Bears," and he's like, "No, man, I ain't going there. That field is cold. I'm I want to go someplace warm where I'm going to win.
But this isn't the team that he signed up for, though, Mike.
No, I understand that, but he gets to pick.
Right. No, but I'm saying the only reason that I think that there's credibility to the rumor is the fact that he's looking at this team and he's like, what the hell am I doing here? Who?
All agreed. All I'm saying is the deal that he negotiated with Steve Keim is going to make his want, if it's true, difficult to accommodate.
Sure.
Because, again, dead money and a full no trade.
Right.
So, but I look, if I'm the new general manager, and I guess that's where we jump off into the new general manager, Monty Offenfort comes over from the Titans, I'm looking into it because if I can figure out a way to turn, to your point, a guy who is probably, if you put him on the open market, going to get you some phone calls and turn it into some draft capital because this team needs help in a lot of places, I do it. I do it, and I try to make him happy, and I try to get something in return for the team.
So the thing about Monty, even though he came from the Titans, he's a longtime Patriot guy. And when you start talking about the Patriot way, everybody's expendable, Mike. If they can be moved to help build their team, we saw the Patriots with Hall of Fame players that they moved in order to get themselves in position to keep winning and to keep making sure that they stay on top. I think he was there so long. I think that's his way of going about doing business. And you saw a little bit of that in Tennessee when they moved, A.J. Brown. And you thought, man, this guy's never going to be gone. But they were able to move him and get some picks for him. And, you don't know how that's going to ultimately turn out. But I don't think he's going to look at this roster and say, this guy's untouchable, this guy's untouchable, and this guy's untouchable. Because if I'm DeAndre Hopkins, there's nobody here that I originally signed up to play for or play with. There's no Chandler Jones. He's gone. There's no J.J. Watt. He's gone. I mean, Kyler Murray, my quarterback, he's gone. You start talking about the offensive line. What is that going to look like? How are they going to rebuild that offensive line? And then you look on the defensive side. You got Budda Baker, and that's about it.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of work to be done. And I look at this, and if you can get it done and turn it into a win-win, you do it. You do it. You sit down with DeAndre Hopkins and say, is this what you want? And if he comes back in the affirmative, said, let's work to make this happen.
Yeah. And I think with the Cardinals, too, the fact that you've got some young, up-and-coming wide receivers already that have shown that they can make plays. They're not afraid of the moment. The moment's not too big for them. I mean, I think about a Hollywood Brown. I think for Rondale Moore, I think if healthy, he can be that guy. Dortch, a guy that showed he can actually make some plays. So there are weapons at the wide receiver position. You'd like for some of them to be over 5'10".
Yeah.
But at the same time, your quarterback's barely 5'10", so he kind of fits right in with everything else that's going on.
Again, if you can turn it into cap, but I agree with you. Look at the wide receiver room. It's not empty. It's not exactly elite without DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, it's not an overflow.
No,
it's not an embarrassment of riches.
No, it's not an embarrassment of riches. But given if this is a rebuild, you can go into it. To your point, you got Hollywood Brown, you got Greg Dortch, you got Robbie Anderson for another year. You've got Greg Dortch is a restricted free agent, so he'll be around. And who am I missing?
Rondale Moore.
And Rondale Moore, if he can stay healthy.
Yeah.
Small and fast, I guess, is going to be the MO to match your quarterback once he comes back. But again, and that pivots you into the question about Sean Payton. Because the Saints, not Sean Payton, but the Saints are going to want some compensation.
They're going to want first round
for whoever hires them. And so if you can turn the wide receiver that wants to go into something that helps you accomplish your long-term goal. I'm not a huge fan of giving up your first-round pick when you've got the third, when you can get in generational defensive talent. As you mentioned, there's not a lot left on the defensive line. Is Sean Payton worth a first-round pick, the number 3 pick, to this franchise right now?
But the thing you got to ask yourself, if you're Sean Payton, what am I coming to, Mike? I don't have my franchise quarterback. I don't have a lot of offensive weapons that I can rely on. And I got to deal with Mike Bidwell on top of all that, because if I'm Sean Payton, I'm going to want to run the show. This is going to be my show. I'm going to be general manager. I'm going to want to buy the groceries and cook the groceries as well. So, to borrow a line from, the Bill Parcells back in the day, I don't know if Mike Bidwell is going to give him that type of latitude, because we hadn't seen him do that with previous head coach hires.
First time they went outside the organization in 30 years for a general manager. So you're right. You're 100% right. This is not something that you usually see out of the Bidwell family. Now Michael Bidwell, who's calling the shots. But I also look at it and say, if you're Sean Payton, would it be better to go back to TV next year? Because look, they said the Los Angeles jobs would be where he'd really want to go. Both of those jobs are not open, right?
For now.
For now. I mean, for now. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe
stay tuned on the Rams. Stay tuned on Sean McVay.
All right. Well, he said he's coming back for now. So
he's already given his assistant coaches permission to seek other jobs.
Yeah.
So why would you do that if you're really 100% all in?
Broncos, you don't have a first-round draft pick because you got Russell Wilson. Lord. So what are you going to give the Saints?
Well, you got a first-round draft pick in return for trading Chubb.
Yeah,
but that one's not going to be as big of or as high of a pick. So it's not as attractive to get that guy that you're really looking for.
Yeah, I mean, because the Saints are going to dictate a lot of this mechanics. And and again, I agree with you about Sean Payton. Why would he come here? But let's just say he wants to work, and so you've got to parse through who's out there. Texans?
No, hell no.
Panthers?
What's funny about the Texans though is he does a weekly hit with Colin Cowherd. And he talked up that job.
Who did?
Sean Payton did. On with Colin.
No, that was probably to make the Texans have to pay that much more money, because look, a real coach should not want anything to do with the Houston Texans, especially a black coach that's trying to get a job and get a new opportunity, because they've shown that they're not too particular towards black coaches. The way that they've treated the last three black coaches,
back-to-back years,
back. I mean, let's not forget Romeo Crennel, who was an interim coach.
That's right, he was interim,
and he got the heave-ho after he was, doing what he needed to do to try to keep the thing afloat. It has not gone well for the Houston Texans, and trust me, my hometown is ablaze, and to know that much of your fan base doesn't want anything to do with that hometown team, that's not a good look at all. The McNairs are in big time trouble.
How much do you think control and power, for lack of better words, is going to play a factor in the Sean Payton decision?
Everything.
Because there's rumors, and I don't know how much stock you put into them, but rumors he was upset that the Arizona Cardinals hired a GM before having the discussion with them, and the Houston thing would make sense if you factor in they'd probably be willing to give him a lot of leeway, a lot of power, a lot of GM-ish type role.
The only thing that even gives you cause to pause with the Houston Texans is the fact that they're going to have the number 2 overall pick.
Yeah.
It's going to be either Stroud or is going to be quarterback from Alabama. Bryce Young. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm okay with either one of those. If you have the choice, because I don't think Chicago, they've been kind of talking up, well, we're gonna, check everything. They're not drafting another quarterback. If you give up on Justin Fields, you are the biggest dumbasses that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because that dude is a generational talent. You need to fill the roster up around him, not fill it up in spite of him.
Trade out of that pick, get him some wide receivers, get him some offensive line help.
Go get him a defensive lineman.
Whatever.
Go get Will Anderson. Look, whoever has the number 1 pick, Will Anderson should already be the pick. Like, you should already have put it into the commissioner. Like, hey, commissioner, I know it's January, but this is who we're taking.
Well, that's what I was getting to, because the NFL and whether or not the Cardinals should give up the number 3 pick to give Sean Payton the job. Will Anderson or Sean Payton?
Give me Will Anderson.
Give me Will Anderson
every day of the week.
Yeah, because there's going to be 2 quarterbacks go 1 and 2. Give me Will Anderson.
I mean, that's a no-brainer. Like, I don't even have to think about it. You just lost J.J. Watt to retirement.
Yeah.
And as much as I love J.J. and much as I respect him, this year wasn't a banner year. Yes, he had the 12 and a half sacks, but it wasn't like he was out there making a difference in the outcome of these games. They still only won 4 games. Yeah. So he wasn't the impactful player that everybody was thinking that he was going to be.
When it goes back to show you how, and I hope whatever he's dealing with outside of football, I hope he gets himself right. But Steve Keim, you go back and look at where this season went wrong. Like you point to injuries, and before they even played a game, we talked about this. Rodney Hudson situation. He played 4 games. He didn't want to play those 4.
Yeah.
So you knew you had a problem there
Yep.
with what you needed to do with a quarterback that needs all the help he can get.
And
right?
the guy that's actually handing him the ball.
Exactly.
You need that guy to be all in.
And then you trade away your first-round draft pick a year ago for Hollywood Brown.
Guy couldn't stay on the field.
Couldn't stay on the field. And even if he could, is he worth a number one? I don't think he is.
To your point, Mike, before the season started, we had signs that this was going to be kind of a rough year. I remember the scene out at whatever they call it, the Cardinal Park or whatever, in front of the stadium.
Yep.
Everybody's kind of like, who we going to take with the number one pick? And it's like, we got Hollywood Brown. And people are like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me right now?
Hollywood Brown, because that'll keep Kyler happy.
Oh.
If that's the reason you're making picks.
Wow.
Seriously, a
Give
first
up
rounder.
a first-round pick for Hollywood Brown, a guy that couldn't really make that difference in Baltimore. They
Right.
were happy. They were more than happy to ship him
A team
off.
that can't find wide receivers. I heard somebody said, the Ravens should trade for DeAndre Hopkins. I said, they would never. They would never. But anyways, I don't know. I just to me, Will Anderson makes so much more sense than Sean Payton. I mean, they're
Yeah. One, he's going to be around longer than
Generational.
Sean Payton will be.
Yep.
And I think for Will Anderson, he's ready to step in right now and be a Micah Parsons type impact player.
Yep.
He can be that guy. Because when I think of him last year, he would have been my number one pick or number two pick over Hutchinson. I thought he was a better defensive end than Hutchinson in Detroit, and he's proven to be a real good find and
Came on well at the end of the season.
He did well. He performed, and I think he lived up to most of the hype. But it wasn't close, Mike. When you start comparing numbers, Will Anderson to Hutchinson and just eyeball test, Will Anderson checks the eyeball test and every other blank that you could possibly have for a defensive player. Get him immediately.
Yeah, 100%. Real quickly before we pivot to the Phoenix Suns.
Oh, gosh.
One thing that I thought was kind of cool for a number of different reasons is there was a picture that the Cardinals put out on their social media after the press conference. Monty Ossenford, he was introduced, and he was shaking hands with Budda Baker. So cool, and he said something like, hey, this is the type of player we're going to build our franchise around. But the second coolest part of that is it's January 17th. Budda Baker's in workout clothes in the weight room is where he found Budda Baker. That to me, the picture is cool, but where they found Budda, he's in a white T-shirt, sleeves off of it. He missed the shoulder injury towards the end of the year. He's in there rehabbing in the weight room.
Mike, I mean, he's everything that you want in a player. He has the mentality. He has the playmaking ability. The only thing you maybe wish Budda Baker was a few inches taller. Other than that, everything about Budda Baker says franchise type of guy. Like, he's the guy that you should promote out there even more than the quarterback, Mike.
Meanwhile, downtown Phoenix, if the playoffs started today, the Phoenix Suns wouldn't be in it. Man.
What happened?
How do I get the words out? Phoenix Suns right now sit at 21-24. They're currently a half game ahead of the Los Angeles Lakers for the 13, 14 spot in the West. Man, like, this is just, whatever could go wrong this year has gone wrong with the Phoenix Suns. Injuries and everything else.
Mike, we talked about this. We talked about when those other teams got healthy, when the Memphises got healthy, when Dallas kind of figured it out, when the Clippers got healthy, when the Nuggets got healthy. It was going to be one of those, it was going to look different for the Phoenix Suns. We talked about this before the season even started, and now all of that's starting to come into fruition. And you even throw in a few injuries here with the Suns. I think they're in trouble, Mike.
They're in trouble, and I grant you all of that. Memphis is one of the most fun teams in all the league to watch. Like, if you get a chance to flip TNT or whatever, and it's Memphis, you're staying on that game.
Ja Morant is the biggest 100%. Spectacle of the NBA right
100%.
now.
100%. You're not getting New Orleans. They're third in the West right now.
They're a fun team. People like them.
But even with all of that, with everybody getting better, the teams that you mentioned getting healthy, a lot of this is on what's happening with the Suns. Like, there's the positives on the other side, but there's a lot of negative vibes going on right now. Like this Jay Crowder thing. Like, how do you let that linger? How does that linger so long?
Attitude is a reflection of leadership, Mike. And when your owner is one of the bigger problems and the bigger headaches and the bigger stories that you have going into a season, and is he going to sell the team or is he not going to sell the team, it's already a recipe for disaster. And I think for this team, they were just caught up trying to be professionals and making the most of a horrible situation. But it's hard to be a Phoenix Suns fan as long as Robert Sarver is still in command. It's hard. There's nothing that you can say that can redeem your trust in this man and have him be ahead of this organization, and you feel good about going through the turnstiles and watching this team play.
Absolutely. It reminds me of a line from The Simpsons. I watch The Simpsons every night. It's like, did you need to rub salt in the earth on the way out? He's like, yeah, I did. And that's pretty much what it feels like.
Yeah.
Because you looked 2 years ago where this team was.
Yeah, they were in the finals.
How fun it was for this city.
Mike, they were up 2-0 in the finals.
Yeah.
On the Milwaukee Bucks, heading to Milwaukee.
And now, here we are. Like the Jay Crowder situation.
Eesh.
That should have been resolved for his sake and for the team's sake.
I mean,
having him hang around.
Why are you doing that to this guy?
Why are you doing it to him? Why are you doing it to the players? See it. The other players that are staying see it.
And I mean, the thing is, he was such a popular figure. Now they see how you're treating him, and then they think to themselves, that could be me, Mike. I could be the next Jay Crowder.
Yeah.
I could be the guy, if they have issues with wanting me to stay around and not go somewhere else, are they going to block me from going to where I ultimately want to go? And it's always going to end bad for the organization when you have a popular player getting treated or being mistreated, because you know they're going to continue to have conversations. They still talk to Jay Crowder on a regular basis.
Sure they do.
And they know how he feels. And on some levels, they're sympathetic towards him. So you see how they treat Jay Crowder. You know how most of them feel about Robert Sarver. Monty Williams is kind of caught in the middle, my guy. And all he's wanting to do is be a good coach and try to help this team win. Mike, it's an impossible situation to salvage right now. You just nothing about it feels good. Everything feels like it's just impossible to get to a ground zero because they're working at such a deficit.
Yeah, the sale can't happen fast enough.
Can't happen fast
Hopefully
enough.
before the trade deadline. So, you know, the Robert Sarver, who is not able to be part of the team, can still veto anything apparently, and that's part of the reason why Jay Crowder's still around. But it's just that's why we can't have nice things. Like it's so sad how this is just spun out of control. Because that was the one bright spot in this town.
Yeah.
The Cardinals, the Diamondbacks aren't any good. The Coyotes aren't any good. Like this is the one bright spot in the professional sports world in this town, and they broke that.
I mean, you know, but then you think about even going to the Sun Devils, Sun Devil football. Well, okay. Sun Devil basketball. Okay.
I didn't think we were talking about. I was shocked. They went up and they won 2 games in Oregon this past weekend. A nice road trip to the Pacific Northwest. And prior to that, Joe Lunardi, who does bracketology for ESPN, he had the Sun Devils out of the tournament. And I heard Tim Healy say this was their best conference start since James Harden's freshman season or something.
Wow. No, even beyond that. It's 42 years since they had a conference start like this. They're 6-1.
Is this disrespect to the Sun Devils or disrespect to the Pac-12? What is this? Because it's
both.
I was shocked. Like
Both.
I don't pay attention to college basketball really until football is almost over, right? And somebody brought it up and said, yeah, Joe Lunardi has the Sun Devils not in the first. You know how he does the first 4 out?
Yeah.
They're not in that group. They're at the bottom of the next group. So that means they're like the 7th team. 7 teams in before they get in.
Yeah, I don't know how that'd be. I mean, they're already 15 wins on the year.
That's shocking to me.
15-3.
He only had 2 teams from the Pac-12 in the tournament, Arizona and UCLA.
But think about what you just said. They are 15-3. They've played 18 games, and nobody knows because all we've talked about is playoff football with not only big shout out to the Georgia Bulldogs who ramrodded the TCU Horned Frogs. Shout out to the Lone Star State. But their season's almost done, Mike.
Yeah.
By the time the Super Bowl is played, they will already be towards conference championships.
Yeah. I just
crazy.
I keep one eye on it, right? And I was shocked by that. And Sean and I talked about Arizona State played right before the New Year, and I think Arizona won by, it was single digits, wasn't it, in Tempe?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what the final was, but ASU got back within 2 in the second half, and then they kind of pulled away. They couldn't hit a shot. They struggle at times. They go through some spells where they struggle on the offensive side, but they are absolutely elite defensively. It's by far the best defensive basketball team I've seen in my time working with Arizona State.
Well, hopefully they keep winning, because they are. It's funny to say it in mid-January. It's must-win time for ASU. To your point, to even be relevant.
6-1 in conference, 15-3 overall.
I don't get that.
You win 5 more games.
How are you not in the tournament?
You win 5 more games, you're a bubble team. You know what I mean? And they're going to win 5 more games.
The scary thing is Joe Lunardi's usually right about these things. And then the team, since we're talking, I didn't think we were going to. The team down south, what happens with them is they're an elite team. Talk about that. But their problem is they get bored.
Right.
Like they lost games.
Back-to-back weekends where ASU beat Washington State. Washington State goes down and beats U of A. This week ASU clobbers Oregon. Oregon beats U of A. So it's just kind of back-to-back
Arizona looks
weeks.
like they are so talented. They just look bored. Mm-hmm. Like they'll play. They will
get to the tournament already.
Right. They'll put on a show. I don't know when they play UCLA, but it'll be a
this
hell of a
weekend.
game.
We play USC Thursday. They play USC this Saturday.
It'll be whatever. The game will be on national TV. It'll be a big deal. Arizona, UCLA, back again, all this. And they won't be bored in that game, and then they'll lose to USC. Like, I don't know.
Here's a thought. When I think about college basketball, do they get the biggest shaft of all sports in the country?
No.
In terms of when they play?
I mean, because think about it. When the Super Bowl is played, it will be what, the 13th or 14th?
12th or 13th of February.
14th this year.
14th?
No, take it back. 12th. 12th. You're right. 12th.
The 12th of February. So you basically have 2 weeks to shine by yourself, and then you hit March Madness.
Yeah.
So the whole conference schedule has taken a backseat to every other sport out there.
And they try. I mean, I think part of the problem with all the sports, and basketball suffers from this, is the oversaturation of all of it. Like, extending the NFL season, to your point. But,
basketball is 82.
You can find basketball if you want it. I mean, I was doing my Saturday show in a place we went in. It was before the football game started on Saturday. It was all college basketball all over the place. Yeah. So if you want to find it, you can.
Yeah, but people were talking. They were getting ready to watch the football game.
No, I understand all that. I'm just saying it's the saturation of sports in general, or oversaturation. But you're right. It doesn't have the same feel it did back when we were kids. But you couldn't see the games. Right? You just waited. I grew up in Channel 5, right? You had Michigan's on Channel 5 today. Michigan State back in the day.
Like, we had 5 Slamma Jamma, so we were thoroughly entertained.
All right. Well, look, stories we'll keep an eye on.
That's right.
Going forward.
That's right.
All right. On the other side, Pump the Brakes. Dad joke. I haven't seen the book yet. Dad jokes.
Yeah, I got one. I'm ready.
Yeah, Sean gave you the clap last time. That's what I heard.
He was prompted by you.
Yeah.
So
See,
let's not.
You're gonna blame me for you.
That's what we're talking about.
I didn't say it. You said it.
Awful human being.
Wow.
I only hear what I'm just breaking news. So this is what we said earlier. I report what I hear. Your exact words were, "I gave you the clap."
Wow.
True or false?
That is true story.
All right. Well, we'll be back.
Yeah, we got a few jokes off of that too.
Welcome back in. Train and Grose. Follow us on Twitter @Train and Grose.
Simple enough.
Easy peasy. Regular listeners know the music.
Yeah.
It's time for Pump the Brakes.
Pump the brakes.
All right, so this is where I'm going to give you guys statements from around the world of sports. Maybe a little pop culture. We'll see if I can come up with anything for that one. But you tell me if you're pumping the brakes on it, or if you're going to roll with that statement. Michael Bidwell, you guys talked about the Cardinals, their transition that they're in this offseason. He made some comments earlier in the week that he would allow Kyler Murray to have input on who the next Arizona Cardinals head coach would be. Pump the brakes or not necessarily this situation, but players overall having that kind of an input in front office decisions like hiring a new coach. Are we pumping the brakes on that, or should players have an opinion on it?
I'm not going to pump the brakes. I think there should be limited opinion and limited input. because again, if these guys are being paid like they're the franchise guy and they're supposed to be the most important, then I think they should have some say as to who's going to be in charge of them and who's going to be leading them for the foreseeable future. And I think it's a case-by-case basis. I think some quarterbacks are much more mature to handle that type of situation than others. If you were to give a Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, I don't think people would bat an eye.
Not at all.
But then when you start talking about a Kyler Murray, people are going to be like, whoa, pump the brake. Because, he hasn't shown that he has the maturity to be able to handle that type of situation. So based on their professionalism and their track record, I think it would be okay for some quarterbacks to have that kind of say in who is going to lead their franchise into the future.
I agree with you. I do. I'm not pumping the brakes on that at all. And I think the first statement from Michael Bidwell was something to the effect of the team leaders.
Yes.
Leaders of the team, whatever he said. And then it came more specifically to Kyler Murray. And look, like if you look in situations in college football, college basketball, players will have the opportunity to have a panel interview with a coaching prospect. So I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. I think he doesn't get veto power. He doesn't get the final say.
No. I don't even think they need to. You necessarily are looking for names. I think you're more
what
looking for.
What
are you looking for in a head coach? What is the candidate in your mind is pros and cons of X, Y, Z. But I don't need names necessarily. But hey, you as a player, somebody we've invested a lot in, what makes you? What's going to help get you to the best of your abilities? Well, I think that kind of conversation.
So how about this? If you're Kyler, right, and you look at Brian Flores as a name that's been kicked around of possibly being on Michael Bidwell's short list, and Bo Brock over at PHNX Cardinals did a story on this. Look at Brian Flores, his relationship with Tua, and what the Dolphins decided. Brian Flores, Tua's still there, right? So if you're Kyler Murray, you might have a feeling about that.
Yeah, the thing too, when you start talking about Monty and Brian Flores, they worked together in New England for a number of years, and don't be surprised if you see a head coach with some New England ties to them. Yeah, he was late. His last gig was with the Tennessee Titans, but that was due to his relationship, with the head coach who was also a former Patriot. So, Mike Vrabel was a guy that cut his teeth in the NFL as a linebacker for the New England Patriots. So there's a lot of familiarity, if you will, with the New England Patriots and whoever Monty is going to decide to go with as far as his head coach.
Number 2, Dallas Cowboys played Monday night. That'd be yesterday. We're recording this on a Tuesday. They beat Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was on Monday night. They got back in town around 3 a.m. They're going to play the 49ers, who played Saturday afternoon at home. Dallas has to travel to San Francisco. Needless to say, they feel some kind of way about this scheduling. Pump the brakes or not, they've got a legitimate gripe about this Super Wildcard weekend scheduling. 2 days difference from the 49ers.
Pump the brakes. Bump the Cowboys, first of all. And so let me just get that out there. But then if you are a higher seed, if you won more games, to the victor go the spoils. You get more of an advantage. Just like you get to play at home. If you had won more games, you would be at home and you would have all the advantage towards you. So, no, you get no sympathy from me. Win the games that you're supposed to win, and you don't have to have this type of situation.
100%. 100%. And, look, the NFL did them a favor. They're playing the latest game on Sunday. So they put them as late as they could go. Look, something's got to – how do you think these contracts get paid? To your point, win the games, yeah. But you got to play more and more postseason games to keep the money flowing.
That's correct.
Right? And ESPN's a big partner. ESPN wanted a Monday night game. Guess what?
They're getting
Monday
the
night it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Speaking of the 49ers, Brock Purdy, 18 of 30, 300 yards. Dude accounted for 4 touchdowns overall, 3 through the air, 1 on the ground on Saturday. Pump the brakes.
Gilbert Perry's
Absolutely. Zone. Pump the brakes or not. It's his job going forward after that.
Oh, pump the brakes. I think for Trey Lance, you're not going to lose that job completely due to injury. I know how they feel with Brock Purdy. I think they feel great about their quarterback situation going forward. But to think that you're just going to go with the guy that was the last pick of the draft over a guy that was the number, I believe, 3 pick in the draft.
And you moved up to get
that
him.
you moved up to get
Gave
Trey
up
Lance,
a ransom to get him.
who just so happened to get hurt, which is the only reason that he's not available. It's a hard sell if you're Kyle Shanahan and you're John Lynch. It's hard to sell the San Francisco fan base on Brock Purdy long-term over Trey Lance. Now, if Trey Lance wasn't in the picture and he was just a third-string quarterback and it was just between him and Jimmy G, I don't think there'd be anybody sweating it. I don't think anybody would bat an eye. But Trey Lance is that wild card because he still has not really had that chance to go out and show what he can really do.
And I agree with you. I think you owe it to yourself. You owe it to what you gave up. And there was a reason why you did that at one point. You believe in the kid, right? So you owe it to yourself to give him an opportunity for that job. But I'll tell you this, having been lucky enough to be there and be on the field this past weekend, they love that kid, Brock. The team, his teammates, the fans chanting his name when he comes out of the tunnel. He's got a nickname right now. I don't know if you guys know the nickname that they've given him, and they chant there in the stands.
What is it?
Big blank Brock. The word that's blanked out rhymes with the word Brock.
Wow.
They love that dude there.
But they love him for the circumstances, though.
Yes.
They love him because of the fact that the team didn't fall apart when they lost their top 2 quarterbacks. If your third-string quarterback comes in and does the job, of course, we always talk about the backup quarterback is the most popular guy on the team, right? The third-string guy who happens to have the title of being Mr. Irrelevant and being such a great story, anybody can get behind that. Yeah. But the main thing is they've won 10 straight. And he hasn't lost a game since he's been inserted into the starting lineup. So, yeah, they're going to feel that way until they run into any type of problems. Now, I will say this. If they get to a Super Bowl and they win a Super Bowl, he ain't getting that job.
I'll tell you,
he ain't come out of that huddle.
I'll tell you this, though, too. If we're going to have a real conversation about this, what I also saw being there, it's not like he's lighting this. Statistics look nice. There's a lot of missed opportunities, and he's a rookie. Dudes are running wide ass open everywhere on that field. If it's Brandon Ayuk seeing man coverage and the DB trying to keep up with him, running across the field, and Debo's sweeping out to the flat on the other side, and Christian McCaffrey's over here, and George Kittle's the safety blanket up the seam. I mean, it's just it's insane what he has.
His head is still swimming.
Yeah.
I know that he's had a lot of good fortune. He's got a great team, but that's what they did. That's what John Lynch and that's what Kyle Shanahan did. They made a quarterback-proof team.
That team is so good everywhere. I mean, if the quarterback we're talking so much about is probably the one question mark
just
on that roster.
All they're asking them to do is just don't blow it. Don't
good.
Throw a game-changing interception. Don't make the dumb play.
That team is so good. Sorry.
So good. No, you're fine. Going back to the first question is, no, I agree with you. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah. You don't have a first-round pick this year because it's going to Miami.
Right.
You don't have a second-round pick this year because it's going to Miami. Right. So you have a lot invested in Trey Lance, and you're not going to give up on
it. And there was a reason at one point why you gave up that ransom to get him.
I'm going to flip it a little bit and say, not Brock Purdy, but the pressure's on Trey Lance at some point. You got to stay on the field, and you got to show that the investment that the 49ers made in you is worth it. At some point, the pressure's going to be on him that you don't become Jordan Love. We can't get off of this quarterback that we got because of that, right?
But that's different because Jordan Love was trying to unseat a legend. Brock Purdy ain't a legend.
I understand that, but I'm talking about just getting on the field and convincing them that you can go. Because before Brock Purdy was ever in the conversation and Jimmy Garoppolo came back, it leaked out of the locker room that said, hey, we need you guys to rally around this guy. We need you to Trey Lance is our guy, right? Because he wasn't playing the way they thought he could or should play in the preseason before he got hurt. Right? So at some point, the pressure is on Trey Lance to perform, no matter who's behind it.
This is the strangest quarterback situation that I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you're talking about a team that was trying to move away from a guy that got you to a Super Bowl and another NFC championship game. You had another guy that you gave the house for to draft him, and then somehow, some way, the last pick of the draft, who no other team wanted a few times, like what, 6 times, 7 times?
200 some odd players.
200 some odd players. You bring him in, and now all of a sudden he's hot. Any of these quarterbacks the storyline would be tremendous. But the fact that these are all on the same team, you can't make this kind of stuff up.
Well, and going back, like when they give out the awards this year, Coach of the Year, Player of the Year, the front office, whatever
Executive of the Year
is
goes to John Lynch.
It's got to be John Lynch. That roster,
it's so
the
good.
fact that you can plug. This is not meaning any disrespect to Brock Purdy, but the fact that you can plug Brock Purdy in at this point and not skip a beat because of what you just described.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. You look over there, you got Christian McCaffrey. Over there, you got George. Come on. And that defense
is best in the league.
So the only pushback I would give to that, as far as Executive of the Year, is the general manager of the Seattle Seahawks, because you got rid of Russell Wilson, who was a headache.
Yeah,
you were able to get a quarterback that was already there, who was going to a Pro Bowl, by the way.
Right.
And Geno Smith, who had been a journeyman for the last 8 years. And you somehow found a way to get into the playoffs. Now, you didn't do anything in the playoffs, but the fact that you lost your quote-unquote franchise quarterback, you replaced him with the guy that was already on the roster, and he goes to the Pro Bowl and takes his team to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, come on now.
Just that trade alone.
Just the trade alone.
The trade alone.
Because you remember a couple years ago, we wanted to give it to Steve Keim for fleecing the Houston Texans.
Yep.
For DeAndre Hopkins.
You're going to take this contract
you're
and give me JJ.
And give me picks, and I get your picks.
That's a good point. It's not what you got, it's what you gave up.
Right.
That's a good point.
I'm just saying,
But that roster, I haven't seen. Everything in the NFL today is supposed to not let you put together a roster like the 49ers have. They want that parity. They want, everybody to have the ability to stay within, arm's length of each other. I don't know how they put that roster together the way they did, but it is sensational. It is an unbelievable football team.
And let's not forget the Philadelphia Eagles too. Now they made some big time moves to make that roster.
They rebooted that.
Too.
I mean, let's not forget they won
pretty quick.
They won that Super Bowl and hit rock bottom right away, and then boom, bounced right back to being a team that's number 1 seed.
Well, you made a good point about what the NFL is supposed to be, right? And I think there's teams like the 49ers and the Rams last year blowing it up.
Yep.
Because we talked about the Dolphins and the picks they got. I'm looking at it right now because I'm like, well, wait a minute. How'd they get Christian McCaffrey in exchange for second, third, fourth round pick this year and a 4th and 5th next year?
Yeah. Oh, they went all in just like the Rams did.
Yeah.
But that's where a guy like Brock Purdy can save you. The Rams had to go all in by giving a big quarterback contract to a veteran. If you've got Mr. Irrelevant, I looked it up. We were talking about it at the game. Dude's base salary is $800,000.
Yeah. For the next 3 years.
If he can be your guy, you'll keep this roster together and you will make a run. It's ridiculous.
But it just I don't know what do you do with Trey Lance though.
Yeah.
I don't.
I think the pressure's on Trey Lance more so than anybody in this equation.
Yeah. I'm telling you,
You got to stay on the field.
But I'm telling you, if they make this run, if they get to a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, it's going to be hard to unseat him out that
I'd agree.
Spot.
I don't know how you do it.
It's going to be hard.
Well, especially, I'm telling you, the camaraderie it looked like they all had on the sideline, and they're rallying behind this kid, teammates, everything. And when I'm standing on the sideline and I heard that chant, and I had to look over my shoulder going, did they just say what I think they just said?
Can you imagine?
They love that dude.
For Brock Purdy coming back here, playing the Super Bowl here. There's pictures. Every game that he plays, they show the picture of him at the stadium getting the award from the Cardinals.
Yeah.
The high school player of the year.
Where
did it go?
It'll be Warner Lake.
Where's he from?
Perry High School.
Perry High School.
Yeah.
Gilbert Perry. Gilbert.
Last one.
Things are good in Gilbert right now.
Absolutely ridiculous comeback by Jacksonville to beat those Chargers. I couldn't have been happier watching that game.
Cha-ching.
Trevor Lawrence and his teammates couldn't have been happier either. You guys know what they did after the game?
Yes.
Went to Waffle House, baby.
Wow.
Are we pumping the brakes or not on that decision? And what's your go-to celebration place?
I'm not pumping the brakes because if everybody's in on it, then hey, it's all good. Now Waffle House has had their issues here recently because the
videos going wild.
The videos going wild of the workers and the patrons. Look, I like some of the food at the Waffle House. It's not worth the chaos that I've been seeing. But if everybody's in on it, hey. it's all good. And I would say for places after a game,
not even necessarily after a game. You got a celebration of some sort. What's your go-to?
I'd probably say Cheesecake Factory.
I like Cheesecake Factory. Once you narrow down the menu and you know what you like, it's money.
I haven't been to a Cheesecake Factory in a minute.
Tacos, man.
Not bad.
Can I tell you what lately, and my daughter Meg.
Hang on a second.
pretty good.
Are you pumping the brakes or not on Waffle House?
Oh no, I'm all. Hey,
Yeah.
I thought that was very cool.
I thought it was
I
great.
agree with you. I'm going to tell you a Waffle House story in a second, but we went to Meg and I. We did a Smoking the Bandit run. We left here early. Had to get me to the airport in Albuquerque so I could fly back.
Long
we
way
beat
to go.
exactly.
A lot of time to
And we beat our time, and we stopped at Rudy's.
Did you really?
Barbecue. And it's as good as
Okay,
as it
okay.
ever was.
Okay. Did
Karen-
you use the sissy sauce though?
No, I did the real sauce.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Real.
I'm a sissy sauce guy. I'll be man enough to admit it.
Yeah, I'm a
Either
sissy
are
sauce
fine.
guy too.
I don't mind it, but I just grabbed the first one. Karen and I were going to see Meg, and we flew into Kansas City, and we got in late, and the Chiefs were playing the Thursday night game, and we went to the Waffle House and beat the crowd.
Okay.
So we had ordered, and all of a sudden, all these Chiefs fans come pouring into this Waffle House near our hotel, and the waitress lost it. People were just yelling and pushing. She took a coffee pot and threw it on the ground and said, expletive, expletive, I'm not taking this anymore. I quit. And she walked out the front door of this Waffle House. She broke down crying. Drunk football fans at about midnight one night.
Oh God.
After the Chiefs said, I don't know if they won, lost, whatever.
They probably won.
yeah,
The way that their season is going.
Right.
It was a couple years ago when Meg
Oh,
was
a couple years
playing in
ago. Gotcha.
Nebraska. We flew into Kansas City
I got
to
you.
get up to her school.
I got you.
But Karen's like, Karen doesn't like the Waffle House as much as I do, but she goes, it's open. It doesn't look like there's
always
anybody there.
open.
So let's go. So we hit it. We were eating. We were about ready to leave, and all hell broke loose. On the one hand, I felt sorry for this waitress.
Did you pay? Did you pay the tab?
I paid. I would never. I worked in hospitality.
Yeah.
Never would I do that. But yeah, she lost it. So to your point about how the crazies,
But the videos,
Waffle House After
have-
Dark.
It's like they've taken a life of their own. Like they need their own social media page.
They really do.
I mean, like there's Instagram, and then there needs to be Waffle House.
Waffle House After Dark.
Yeah.
You know how they got that show with like live PD or something where they follow police
Yeah.
around? They go from police, to police around the country. They should just be able to hop from Waffle House to Waffle House.
We're going to look in live in Kansas City.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Where Shirley just walked off the job.
Threw a pot down.
She got so mad and left.
Hold up.
All right.
This is the part of the podcast where Sean Cressman gives Bertrand Berry the clap.
Wow.
Okay. People don't know what you're referencing if they're just tuning
That's your
in
fault.
this time.
That's your fault.
I'll give you an idea of what he's referencing. So it is time for our dad joke of the week, delivered by one Bertrand Berry. Now, there is a grading system to the dad joke as I pull up the correct sound page. No matter what, he's going to get one of these. If it's a positive dad joke,
Yep.
going to hear the laughter. If it's above and beyond, we're all going to tell our friends. This is what Grose was referencing. You get the clap or the applause. But there's that chance that it just doesn't land in. You get the sad trombone. All right, so be trained.
Here we go. Why did the chicken go to the gym?
Why do you go to the gym?
To work on his pecs.
I like it.
I
Solid.
like that one.
Quick to the point.
To work on his pecs.
You get it? Yeah. She's still laughing.
I'm the one in the back of the room laughing with her. That's pretty good.
All right.
That's going to do it. Episode 93 of Training Gross. We'll see you next
Whoa,
time.
whoa. Before we get out of here,
Rewind.
Number 93. We didn't do our shout out to number 93.
Didn't even do it. Who do you got? You got one. Clearly, you got one on mine.
My man, Calais Campbell. Come on. My teammate, my little big bro.
Still playing.
Still playing, man.
Is he going to play next year?
I wouldn't put it against him. The way these guys are going and the way that they diet and they exercise now, it's possible. I think it'll be year 16 or 17 for him.
Wow.
Ridiculous.
At that position.
At that position.
At that position.
At that size.
Product of Denver South High School.
Denver South, brother.
Shout out to Calais
From
Campbell.
the U. Went to the
Episode
U.
93, we sent it out to Calais Campbell. We'll see you next time.
We'll holla.